Okay. Hello. 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 Let's talk about something. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about exactly, but we could talk about something. Um, and so where could we start? I think so. There was a comment on a previous video which I thought was really cool, and it'd be cool to respond to. It's about Mario 64. Let's start with that. Okay. So okay. Yeah. This comment mentioned the idea that Bowser and Peach are connected, right? We see that their paintings are connected. And so because of this, it becomes hard to tell whether Mario is marrying Peach and killing Bowser, or whether he is marrying Bowser and killing Peach. Right? What exactly is happening here? And see, it's interesting because the one thing this comment brought up is how in folklore and in mythology there are these stories of heroes killing a dragon to save a princess, let's say. And then there are also these other stories in folklore about villagers sacrificing a princess to a dragon, right? To save the dragon, in the sense, to give life to the dragon. Now I think of it, a lot of these stories go together, right? First, you have like the villagers are sacrificing a princess to the dragon every so often, and then at some point someone rises up and says, no, this has to stop. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to sacrifice the dragon in order to save the princess. It's like we're trapped in a loop. It's like the story is... So it's hard to see, because I'm not sure necessarily whether I agree with the morality of the folk story, exactly, whatever it is. But let's say that it seems like the moral teaching of the story is, let's look at it. It's you've got a situation where repeatedly, somehow, we're stuck in a loop as a group, the village. And this loop is a loop in which every week or something, a princess is sacrificed to a dragon to keep the dragon alive. And then you break the loop by someone saying, hey, this loop can actually be reversed. You can actually kill the dragon and save the princess. So, anyway, what's happening, right? Because we got in this game a clear sort of mix of these two issues. And clearly there is a marriage going on in some way. The comment also brought up something I think is really important. I hadn't realized this, that Peach bakes a cake for Mario. So the whole game, the whole idea is that there is going to be some sort of a celebration that involves a cake. And, you know, in the 90s, let's say at least, a marriage would be something that involves a cake. Also, you know, a birthday or something. But it's some sort of a celebration, maybe. We don't really know what is being celebrated. You know, maybe it's just a completely spontaneous plan. But I think that in the context of the game, the fact that it's a cake, there is something about this, I think. And it could be that the cake stands for marriage in some way. Anyway, so then other things that this comment brought up that I thought were cool is the order of the levels that you're moving through when beating Bowser is, I think you start, yeah. let's go through this. You start with Bowser in the Dark World. Then you move on to Bowser in the Fire Sea. And then you move on to Bowser in the Sky. So I think something is happening here that is pretty cool, which is that the Dark World is a dark world. It's a world without light. You would assume it's dark. And somehow you're falling into it. The whole point is that this first level is a level that you fall into through a trapdoor. So you're falling into darkness, into the depths. And so it is the dark world. Then, Bowser in the Fire Sea is, again, something that the comment pointed out, is it fuses fire and water, sea. And fire and water, right, are usually elements that we see as opposed. Again, you could think of this in the way that maybe Peach and Bowser are things that we usually see as opposed, but this is fusing the two. And then Bowser in the Sky. You go back up. So Bowser in the Dark World was down. Bowser in the Sky is up. You go up the infinite staircase. So it suggests that you're going up into infinity, or into infinity, into the highest point imaginable. So the archetype of high point. The archetype of high point would be up, just pure upness, the sky. Dark world, dark, down. You could say maybe that by association, I'm not sure if this is what's happening, but maybe by association, Bowser in the Sky implies non-darkness, whereas down means dark, up might not mean dark, it might mean light. Again, in other videos, I've tried to explore the possibility that that's exactly what this game somehow is about. At some level, is an ever-increasing amount of light. You acquire more and more stars, which are shining things, suns in some sense, right? You're acquiring more and more suns, and so things are becoming more clear visually. Yeah, anyway, so I think some of that is happening, and maybe it could be, it obviously sort of connects back to Mario Sunshine in a sense, because Mario Sunshine in some way explores this theme further, that the world becomes brighter and brighter. It goes from darkness towards brightness, and then the maximum brightness is like the end of the game, you could say. Anyway, so Bowser in the Sky, somehow the opposite of Dark World. Then Fire Sea. Let's look at Fire Sea. Fire Sea is literally a sea of lava. And you enter it through a door that is beyond. See, this is interesting. It's beyond Dire Dire Docks. So Dire Dire Docks, the entrance to Dire Dire Docks, is like a wall of liquid, of water. And then you see that beyond this wall of liquid there is an entrance, but it's inaccessible because you're only jumping into Dire Dire Docks, which, by the way, I think is interesting to note that in Japanese it is called Water World or Water Land. Anyway, I'll put it on the screen if I remember. But it's a very basic title. It's just like Water Land. And so it's an entrance that is water, it's liquid. You jump into water and you enter Water Land. It's almost like it's the absolute archetype of water. That's what you're jumping into. It's a world that is basically just water. It's underwater. But then somehow beyond that Water Land is the Fire Sea. And you access it. Yeah. And you enter into this other kind of waterland where the water is fire. So there is something there. I'm not sure exactly what to say about it now, but there is clearly some strange resonance here between these levels, I think. And so let's just go for a second back to this idea of Bowser and Peach being the same and them being like a paternal and a maternal figure. It's a paternal and a maternal figure in some way. See, there is something about this. I'm not exactly sure how to explore it, but maybe a good way to start is the letter. Peach writes a letter to Mario. And I might have sort of mentioned this at some point. I don't know. But Peach writes a letter to Mario. And it's the written word. Right? It's, hello, Mario. I've baked a cake for you. Please, let's meet up. Bye. And then Mario receives that letter and says, oh, yes, let's go. And he goes to the castle. But then I sort of noticed like, there's an interesting duality between these characters, because I think that Peach, whenever she says something, it's actually something. It's actually language. I can't remember if I've said this again already. It doesn't matter. Let's refresh it. Why not? So I think that Peach, whenever she says something, she actually says something. So she says this. She says the letter. She speaks it. And then at the end of the game, I'm pretty sure she says something like, thank you, Mario.
Mario! The power of the stars is restored to the castle. And it's all thanks to you. Thank you, Mario. We have to do something special for you.
Which is also, it's language that is directed towards Mario. So it's, you, Mario, thank you. And then the first letter is, you, Mario, I am inviting you to eat a cake. So it's speaking. It's a conversation. Peach is engaged in conversation. Mario almost doesn't speak. And almost everything he says is just like explosive language. It's wahoo, yeah, it's explosive expressions of his either his well-being or his fright or his pain. It's sort of him just expressing whatever it is that he's feeling or that he's thinking. But it's not clearly oriented towards anyone. He's not actually talking with anyone. He's just expressing himself, just himself. There's no direction to it. And more than anything, he just barely even speaks. He's not a character who actually engages in a lot of conversation. He says a few things, right? Let's go. It's a me, but it's a me. Is already a very kind of self-contained sentence. You don't really need to say it to anyone, and even if you do, it's not exactly conversation. If you go up to if you say it's me, it's very you're not inquiring about someone else. Peach says hello, I am asking you to come, or would you like to come? And then she says thank you. Mario is, it's me. It's not, it's just this. And then let's go is just about him also, is I am going to go. I'm going to go there. I'm going to go there. It's my sort of direct sort of, I'm oriented towards this place or that place. It's a very sort of like self-contained energy. I think it's funny because maybe one of the most language-y things he says in this game is Mamma Mia, which is mother, right? So it's already kind of hailing to some sort of a mother influence in some way.
Mamma mia!
But anyway, so this weird sort of vibe brings up in me the feeling that Mario is in some way a baby. It's hard. Like, someone, I think, who was it? Like, a friend of mine also suggested to me that the reason Mario is a baby is because this is a game for babies in some way, right? It's probably it's marketed towards children. Was marketed towards children. So it's the idea that even though it's this sort of presumably middle-aged man with a moustache, a child can identify with him because he is sort of bubbly and childy, and he wears like colourful clothes. There's something sort of childlike about him, I think, possibly. But then also there is something, non-languaged about him. But he is heading towards a very languaged person, Princess Peach, who almost everything she says is language. So there's a strange vector there, I feel, from Mario towards Peach. There is a vector from non-language, from non-communication, let's say, towards a dialogue with the other. The other, Peach, speaks to him directly towards him. And something about that speech motivates him to go towards it. So he is engaging in a proto sort of conversation. But it's a slow conversation, and he's slowly getting there. He's getting towards there. Anyway, so I feel like maybe the whole thing with marrying Peach, marrying Bowser, has something to do with this, with some of these themes. See, because another thing that comes to mind, and this is maybe weird to, not sure how to talk about it exactly, but another thing that surrounds this whole issue is that okay, sure. Yeah. Let's explore this. Mario is often surrounded with very archaic energy. I find this very interesting about the Mario games. Mario is surrounded by dragons, right? Turtles, very old animals. Dinosaurs, basically, right? He's also surrounded by mushrooms, who are also very like archaic sort of life, right? Almost like not proto, but it's like absolutely the origins of life. Dinosaurs, reptilian sort of energy, mushrooms, fungus, right? Also very early kind of prehistorical energy, and Donkey Kong, monkeys, also a sort of what in our story as human beings we tend to, right? We say, oh, monkeys. It's the past. It's the past of what everything is today. I find it interesting that Mario is so surrounded by life, fungus, dinosaurs, gorillas, that we often associate with whatever it is that arrived before us and that belongs to the deep past. That's what Mario is surrounding himself with. That's the sort of energy. And because of this, it always makes me think that whenever there is a theme in Mario games of ascension or increasing some sort of an energy, going up from the darkness towards the light, or acquiring more and more light in order to go up, more and more energy, these sorts of themes, surrounded by all these other animals, to me bring out the theme of evolution. I'm not sure, if other people would feel this way. It seems to bring out the theme of evolution symbolically, the symbol of evolution. because it's Mario sort of surrounded by all this sort of archaic energy, but he is moving up towards something that is up beyond the earth, up into the sky, up into something less, material. So this theme of evolution, of, okay, there is this sort of process, this way in which the Mario world is a world that is very archaic, filled with archaic energy, and it is moving up towards something else. It's interesting then that this something else is a fusion between Peach and Bowser, where Peach possibly represents... what does Peach represent? I think, that there are several indications, I feel, in this game that Peach represents in some way the sky, because of her first apparition. Her first apparition is in the sky. It's how the game starts. It starts with the sky, then she materializes into the sky as like a spirit or something and speaks this message, this letter. But then also we meet her again in the sky, up at the top of the staircase. Mario has to ascend up to the top of the sky, right? Up to the top of the castle in order to meet Peach again. And also this strange way in which Peach's image is the central, glass window. These sort of like church windows on the castle. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. But the fact that the castle is decorated with a with an image of Peach, like it's the central window. I don't know. That to me also speaks of windows as windows to the sky. It's a window that's placed up high above. You see through a window. You see through this window. But it's a window that is also, it's not just a window into another world, it's also art. It's a depiction of Peach, which is almost all we get in this game, is depictions. I might have already said this. It's almost like we only get depictions of Peach until the final Bowser is defeated for the third time. Then Peach sort of materializes as an actual physical being. Until then, everything we had about Peach is a letter, a disembodied voice, a painting, a window. It's something that's sort of beyond. Right? This is maybe the theme. It's not material. It's not material. It's not something that's directly here in the material world. Peach is somewhere else. We get representations of her in the material world in the form of art, but we don't exactly know where she is and who she is. Which painting of Peach is the real Peach, None of them. They all point towards something, someone. But that someone is beyond any of those representations and all of those representations together. In that way, I think that Peach is not material, and therefore, as opposed to the material, we could say that she is the sky. If what this game is doing is painting a duality between earth and sky, then I think that sky means the non-material, whatever we choose to define as that, the non-material. What would that be? Possibly the relational. What is the non-material? It's the relational. And it's funny because isn't that what Peach is? It's relationship. She speaks to you. There is communication. There is conversation. That's a relationship. But also, right, for Mario, I would argue that it also represents relationship in some way, in the way that she almost sort of stands for. What does she stand for? In this game, I think she stands for marriage, right? And I mean this in the sense that a lot of princess characters do in mythology, that they are almost like just an excuse for the hero to get married. It's like it's like a way in which the hero enters into some sort of a state of relation. Because when you think about it, what's happening to Mario is pretty crazy, because Mario is in some sort of a completely relationless world. Relationless, solipsistic mindfuck, right? he just says, it's me. He just says, wahoo. You know, he is not directly sort of engaging with the world in that way. That's funny. It's like he's just pure material, and then something happens by which he heads towards the spiritual, or towards the relational, relationships between material objects, you could say, or something like that. That's funny, because I think that's also why, and I'm sort of getting ahead of myself here, but since we're broaching this topic, I'll bring this up, that I think this is why the game sort of culminates, in my opinion, with Tick-Tock Clock. There's Tick-Tock Clock is course 14. To me, it's the culmination, because it's the final it's the final course within the castle. It's the course that is the highest up in the castle. You have to go up several levels, and it's the one that is the furthest away from the entrance. You need to go through a lot of locked doors in order to reach Tick-Tock Clock. The actual final course, I think, is Rainbow Ride. But Rainbow Ride... No, I'm wrong. I was getting confused. I thought Rainbow Ride was the level you entered through the entrance of the castle by looking up at the sun, you know? But it isn't. It's something else. And it is apparently right next to Tick-Tock Clock and higher above from Tick-Tock Clock. So, I don't know. But I would argue there's something weird about Tick-Tock Clock happening, because Tick-Tock Clock is this pure experience of mechanicism or something. It's objects hitting against other objects and activating other objects, you know, pendulums hitting moving wheels activating platforms. It's like the bare bones, it's like the barest expression of a lot of what Mario has been engaging with in this world, which is platforms, the physical world, you know? But it's a way in which somehow everything in that level is connected to everything else. Okay, so yeah, that's clearly not an insight I'm going to explore anymore now, but I think that's probably why it's at the end of the game. So, in any case, what were we saying? We were talking about relationship, right? And how Peach possibly stands for relationship with the world in some way. You see, so then it feels as if that's what, that's the path. Mario's going up towards that path. Okay, what about Bowser? Let's look at Bowser for a second. Bowser is a king. And he is like a despotic king of some kind. He is like a ruler. He does whatever he wants, and he gets his will done. I think that's one of the aspects of Bowser. It's just the archetype of the king, and a king that you are opposed to. In some way, right? In some way, Bowser is like the superego, in that it's someone telling you from above, you should do this and you can't do that, right? So Mario, you want to do this, but I'm going to prevent this from happening, right? You want to run towards Peach. No. Trapdoor, or you want whatever. Like, whatever Mario wants is what Bowser doesn't want. Whatever Bowser wants is what Mario doesn't want. I think it's a complete clash of wills. It's like the absolute reverse opposite of the will of the ego. That would be the superego, maybe. And so, I think that's the role of the despotic ruler in this game, and why it is so present. You have King Bob-omb, you have the Womp King. I know those are the only two, I think. But it, whatever. I think it's enough. You have just a theme, I think, again, of monarchy, kings, rulers that sit at the top of pyramids, of structures that tower above you, and therefore control you from above. Anyway, so within that theme, I would say that Bowser, is everything that Mario doesn't want. It doesn't want to do. It's the opposite of his will. And then Peach. Like, traditionally you would say that this sort of character would represent like the object of desire, I suppose, of Mario, or something like that. And you can see in the way that it's fused with Bowser that Mario is running towards Peach. It signals within the game that that's something that Mario wants. Mario wants to run towards Peach. Which is funny, because this is independently of whether the player wants to run towards Peach. The player has no sort of other way of moving through the game other than enacting, almost theatrically, the process by which Mario runs towards Peach and then falls. So anyway, I think that in any case, this enactment is a way in which Mario is running towards Peach. He wants to go towards Peach. This is, again, indicated in the very beginning of the game. He gets a letter from Peach saying, "I've baked you a cake." And then Mario says, "Yes, I want to go." I think that partly this is due to the cake. Mario wants to eat the cake. But also, I think that it's because a cake is a sweet food. It's a food that's sweet, and that therefore, within the usual sort of stereotypes of our culture, is nice. Right? Sugar and spice and all things nice, that sort of thing. I think that there is just this way in which Peach is like something that Mario wants to go towards. I just get this sense, like a beeline. It's almost like, again, the opposite of Bowser, in that Bowser is everything that Mario doesn't want, everything that is an obstacle to Mario's will, and then Peach is everything that is in complete alignment with Mario's will. It's like, yes, my will is directly oriented towards this. And then they're fused, right? And then they're fused. And then it's not just, it's fused throughout the game. Like you're told that Bowser in the Dark World, then Bowser in the Fire Sea. So there is a fusion between water and fire. And then sky. We somehow transcend that. So I think that from within this theme of fire and water, the last topic that I would like to broach right now is water. And I'm just going to open it because I don't think there's going to be much to say about it now. We'll see. But water. I feel like water is very present in this game. Water is very present in this game. What do I mean by this? Well, the first thing I wanted to mention is the paintings themselves. The paintings in the castle are, in some way, water. Because you jump into them and they go, you know, and then you've moved into the other side. And so they are a liquid film that you're jumping into. There is a lot of water in the game anyway. I mean, it's typical of a Nintendo game, but there is a lot of water. There's a lot of, Jolly Roger Bay, Hazy Maze Cave, Dire Dire Docks, and Wet Dry World, obviously. And then, there is water surrounding or included in a lot of the other levels. There is water in Tall Tall Mountain, in Snowman's Land, in Tiny Huge Island. There is water in some way in Whomp's Fortress, Cool Cool Mountain. I don't know. There is water in this game, and but mainly what I'm interested in is this thing with the paintings. The paintings themselves are filled with water. They're filled with water. That's what you're jumping into. When you jump into one of the paintings, you're jumping into water in some way. You're jumping into a liquid. And so you're submerging yourself in something. The paintings are something you're submerging yourself into. And let's remember that Mario is a plumber. So Mario is doing this. Mario is someone who goes down into places where there is water. And it's a job that involves fixing something, usually. It's fixing something that is not quite right or not quite working in that water. So I think that Mario is like jumping into these paintings, and in a sense it's already weird from the start, because what he's doing is he's collecting stars, which are suns. A star is a sun, and therefore it is fire. So what he's doing is he's jumping into liquid, and he's retrieving fire from that liquid. So he's already uniting fire and water in some way. He jumps in and he retrieves fire. And then that fire illuminates the castle, and things become clearer and brighter, and he can move up and up and up, and go up to clearer areas that require more light. So it's interesting, because then it seems as if I feel as if maybe something that is being suggested in this game is, like, for example, look at Wet Dry World. Wet Dry World suggests something. And it suggests the idea that there is something hiding behind water. You have water, but then you uncover that water, and you discover that underneath that water there was something that you couldn't have possibly seen with all that water. There is, in fact, a whole other world, right? Which is what you find in the paintings. Beyond that water, there is another world, a completely different world. But you wouldn't be able to access that world. You wouldn't be able to enter through that doorway, you would say. It's a portal of some kind, a passageway. It's a passageway from one place to another place. And that passageway can't happen unless there is some way in which the water level is adjusted or drained. So water is something that locks an entrance in Wet Dry World. Okay, now this happens again. It happens in the actual castle. It happens in Peach's castle. There is a way in which the castle is flooded in some way, right? The outside of the castle is flooded, and there is a passageway under the water. But you can't quite know this, or you can't quite access it unless you get rid of all that water. You deflood it. And then suddenly it's like, oh, okay, now that there's less water, I can enter into this passageway. I couldn't enter into it before, and it's a passageway that takes me to a completely different place, a completely different world. So water is something that in some way obstructs a passageway. It doesn't just obstruct it in the sense that, oh, I can't go in there. It's that I can't even quite become aware of it. I can't become aware of the fact that there is an entrance unless I drain the water. So water is seen as some sort of like an obscuring thing. Anyway, another place in which this happens, Tall Mountain. Although, let's say, no, Tiny Huge Island. In Tiny Huge Island, the top of the crater is flooded with water. There is water pooling the mountain, and you can't enter into that hole unless you drain it. So again, the same puzzle repeats again and again. There is the idea that you have to drain that water, and then finally you can enter into that place, into the volcano. And in the volcano, it's a completely different world. You're inside the volcano. But you needed to drain the water first. So those are 3 examples of places where that happens, more or less. And it really makes me wonder, because it feels then as if water is used as a symbol for obscuration. With water, you can't see. Right? You get rid of water, suddenly you can see or become aware. You can see, and then you can enter. And there is some place that is further beyond that water that was drained. So it also opens the possibility that light, therefore, in this game, is the opposite of that. Fire, let's say, light. So the mix of fire and water in this game is used as a mix between obscuration, water, and non-obscuration or clarity as fire. And fire or light is what you're collecting in this game, stars. But in order to collect those stars, you're jumping into water. The paintings are, you again and again, you're jumping into liquids. That's all you're doing in this game, jumping into big liquidy things. So it's interesting because you could almost say that the castle is flooded, the whole castle, because it's flooded with paintings. The whole castle is filled with paintings that in themselves are filled with water or are water. So you're constantly just jumping into all these flooded places in the castle. The castle is a flooded place. It is, in a sense, a flooded castle. But it's flooded with flooded with paintings. It's flooded, whatever that means, right? So, in any case, I think that's a good place to stop it. This is where we're going to start exploring the next video, I hope. Or, anyway, we'll see you again soon. Goodbye. Thank you.